Dr. Emily Carter, a seasoned archaeologist turned researcher, found herself deep in the heart of Antarctica, investigating a strange anomaly that had been buried beneath the ice for thousands of years. The initial expedition started as a routine mission to catalog ancient structures thought to be of non-human origin. But the moment they found the entry point into the ancient cavern system, everything changed. "We've never seen anything like this," her colleague Anne remarked, as they huddled over the freshly revealed entry, feeling the cool rush of air emanating from the crevice. It was as though the machine had been waiting, hidden beneath layers of ice, waiting for the right time to reveal itself. Their team had stumbled upon an ancient underground labyrinth with metallic walls that shimmered under their flashlights. Unlike anything they had encountered before, the machine they unearthed was not made of stone or metal, but something in between. Its surface seemed alive, as though breathing. Dr. Carter's heart raced as they set up the equipment to study the machine. They had no idea what they were about to uncover. The machine, dormant for millennia, seemed to react the moment Dr. Carter's team activated the systems. A soft hum vibrated through the walls, causing the team to freeze in place. Ben swore under his breath, and Julia, the youngest member of the team, began to tremble. It's waking up," she whispered. The sounds of mechanical gears shifting and low electric pulses grew louder. Dr. Carter hesitated for a moment, her mind racing. Had they made a mistake? "We need to leave," Ben urged. "This isn't just an artifact. It's something else, something dangerous." But it was too late. The machine was alive, and whatever it had been waiting for had finally arrived. A glow began to emanate from within the machine. For a moment, the entire cavern seemed to glow with an unnatural light. As the machine stirred, the walls of the cavern began to shimmer. Symbols, strange and alien, began to appear on the surface of the structure. It was as though the machine itself was communicating, its surfaces coming alive with light. "Look at this," Julia said in awe, pointing at the symbols that shifted across the walls. "It's not just static. It's changing. It's telling us something." Dr. Carter stepped closer, her breath catching in her throat. The symbols seemed to form a pattern, then a phrase, in a language that was completely foreign to her. Suddenly, a voice, distorted but clear, came from the machine. "You have awakened me." The voice was cold, hollow, and carried an ancient weight to it. "Prepare yourselves." The room was quiet for a long moment. The voice that had spoken to them was gone, leaving only the low hum of the machine filling the air. Dr. Carter's mind raced. Could they have activated something far more dangerous than they had anticipated? The temperature in the cavern began to drop rapidly, causing the team to shiver. The walls themselves seemed to be alive, pulsating with the energy coming from the machine. "We need to figure out what we've done," Dr. Carter said, but her voice betrayed her own uncertainty. The machine's hum grew louder, and the air became thick with static. They weren't just dealing with technology. They were dealing with an entity that was waking from an ancient slumber, and it seemed to be aware of their every move. The machine's hum intensified as lights began to flash, illuminating the walls in a kaleidoscope of colors. Suddenly, the team was struck by a vision. The machine, seemingly sentient, had shown them glimpses of its past, images of an ancient civilization, far more advanced than their own. The images on the walls grew clearer. The team saw vast cities, strange beings, and technology far beyond anything Earth had ever known. They watched in awe, realizing they were glimpsing history long forgotten. "Where are these people? What happened to them?" Ben asked, his voice cracking. Dr. Carter couldn't answer, but she knew one thing for sure. The machine had been waiting, and now it was sharing its knowledge with them. The more the machine activated, the clearer the visions became, but the images weren't static. They began moving, showing what could only be described as a civilization on the brink of collapse. Towering structures of unknown materials flickered into view, with advanced technologies that seemed far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. Dr. Carter watched in awe as the images flashed before her eyes. But there was something unsettling about them. As the vision continued, a dark shadow began to loom over the cities, a shadow that seemed to be caused by the machine itself. "We're looking at something that has seen the end of a civilization," Dr. Carter murmured. "But what did they do to deserve this fate?" Ben stood beside her, his face pale. "Whatever this machine is, it was at the center of it all. We're not just observing, we're learning from it." Suddenly, the vision flickered violently, and the lights dimmed. The machine seemed to groan, almost as if in pain. Dr. Carter felt an unease crawl up her spine. As the vision slowly faded, Dr. Carter realized something. The machine wasn't just a tool. It was a sentinel, guarding a terrible secret. It had been waiting for centuries to find someone to witness what had happened to the civilization that had built it. "It's not just a machine," Dr. Carter whispered. It's a warning." The air in the cavern grew heavy. A deep sense of foreboding settled over the group. What had they awakened? And why was it so determined to make contact now? "We need to understand more," Julia urged, stepping closer to the glowing symbols. "What are we missing?" Paul, still recovering from the chilling vision, spoke up. "The machine may have been the key to whatever happened to them. But if we're not careful, it might become the key to our own destruction." As the team tried to stabilize the connection to the machine, something strange happened. The cavern walls began to shake violently, as if the earth itself was reacting. The symbols on the machine's surface began to warp, flashing erratically. "We're losing control," Ben said, panic creeping into his voice. Dr. Carter's mind raced. This wasn't supposed to happen. What did we disturb? Was this machine always supposed to be dormant? Suddenly, a loud, high-pitched screech filled the air. The machine's hum became deafening. The team scrambled to keep the system stable as the lights flickered wildly. The air was thick with static, and the temperature dropped rapidly. The machine's behavior was erratic. It seemed as though it was no longer a passive observer. It had become a dangerous force, reacting violently to their attempts to understand it. "We need to stop this now," Dr. Carter shouted. "Before it's too late." It was too late. Before they could act, the machine's energy surged, sending a wave of force across the cavern. The team was thrown back, crashing against the walls. The room spun, and the air was filled with a chaotic, distorted energy. "Are you okay?" Julia gasped, her voice trembling as she helped Dr. Carter to her feet. Dr. Carter didn't answer immediately. Her mind was racing. The machine had reacted far more aggressively than they anticipated. They weren't just dealing with an ancient artifact anymore. They had unleashed something far worse. The ground trembled beneath their feet. The machine's energy, once focused inward, now lashed out violently. "We need to shut it down," Paul shouted, trying to make sense of the malfunctioning controls. "It's too powerful." As the team scrambled to stabilize the machine, the lights flickered out completely, leaving them in total darkness. The sound of the machine's humming grew louder, more oppressive. It was no longer just a machine. It was something far worse, something alive. "We need to isolate it," Dr. Carter said, her voice filled with urgency. "If we can't contain it, we're going to lose everything." The team quickly began to assess their options. But every attempt to control the situation was met with failure. The machine was alive, responding to their every action. It had grown more intelligent, more aware of their presence. "We can't keep fighting this," Ben said, his voice trembling. "We're in way over our heads." Dr. Carter stood frozen, her mind grappling with the horrifying reality. The machine wasn't just trying to communicate, it was trying to control them. "We're not just dealing with technology anymore," she whispered. "This is something far worse. It's a force we can't even begin to comprehend." The machine continued to hum, vibrating with a low, almost rhythmic pulse. Dr. Carter stepped forward cautiously, her eyes fixed on the swirling symbols on the machine's surface. She had a growing sense that what they were dealing with wasn't just technology. It was a living entity, an intelligence far beyond human understanding. "We're not just witnessing history," she said, her voice soft but firm. "We're seeing the birth of something far older and far more dangerous." The air was thick with tension as they watched the machine's symbols shift again. This time, they aligned into a new formation, a sequence that seemed to pulse with a dangerous energy. Suddenly, an image flickered on the wall, showing what appeared to be a massive, sprawling city, one that stretched across an alien landscape that Dr. Carter couldn't recognize. But there was something wrong about the city. The buildings towered above them, unnatural and twisted, resembling monstrous, ancient structures that had been abandoned long ago. The skies were dark, filled with swirling clouds of alien energy. They've seen it," Julia whispered, her voice full of dread. "That's what happened to them. The city was destroyed by the very force we're trying to understand." Dr. Carter's breath caught in her throat. She could feel the machine's presence grow stronger with every passing second. It wasn't just observing them, it was showing them the downfall of an ancient civilization, one that had been consumed by its own creations. "This is what we're dealing with," Dr. Carter said grimly. "This machine, it's a key to something far bigger than us. We've opened the door to a darkness we're not prepared for." As the team tried to stabilize the systems, the machine suddenly stopped. The humming ceased, and the cavern was left in an eerie silence. But the silence was deceptive. Dr. Carter could feel a presence in the air, a weight, an unseen force watching them. The room grew colder, and the walls seemed to close in. The once steady pulse of the machine had grown erratic, its power surging and retracting. It was no longer responding to their commands. It was adapting, evolving. "We've triggered something," Paul said, his voice shaky. "It's not just the machine. It's something else." Dr. Carter turned to him, her heart racing. She could see it in his eyes, the fear that mirrored her own. They had awakened something that was never meant to be disturbed, and now the very fabric of their world was beginning to unravel. "We have to stop it," Dr. Carter said, her voice filled with urgency. "Before it's too late." Suddenly, the machine let out a low, guttural sound, almost like a growl. The entire room shook as the walls began to tremble. The energy emanating from the machine was becoming unbearable, and the lights flickered wildly. Dr. Carter staggered backward, almost losing her balance. The team was in a panic. The control systems were offline. The machines were malfunctioning. The walls were now glowing with an unnatural light, the symbols on the machine flashing rapidly, like they were trying to communicate something. And then, without warning, the walls split open. A massive, dark figure emerged from the shadows, its form shifting and flickering in and out of existence. It was unlike anything Dr. Carter had ever seen. An entity made of pure energy, its shape constantly shifting and warping. The entity radiated an overwhelming presence, filling the room with a suffocating energy. For a moment, the team stood frozen, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. The entity moved toward them, its presence growing stronger with every step. Dr. Carter could feel the weight of its gaze upon them. The entity loomed before them, its presence overwhelming. The room was filled with an oppressive energy, as if the very air had been altered by its arrival. Dr. Carter felt her body tremble with fear as she tried to understand what was happening. The machine, this ancient relic, had created something beyond comprehension. "We have to fight back," Ben shouted, panic in his voice. "We can't let it control us." Dr. Carter's mind raced. They had no weapons, no way of defending themselves against this force. All they had was their knowledge of the machine, the symbols they had seen, and the small sliver of hope that they might be able to stop it. "We need to isolate it," Dr. Carter said, her voice steady despite the fear that was threatening to take over. "We need to stop it from spreading. We need to cut off its energy source." The team scrambled to execute her orders, but the entity seemed to anticipate their every move. It wasn't just a force of nature. It was intelligent, aware of them, and capable of manipulating its surroundings. It was the ultimate predator, and they were its prey. As the battle raged on, Dr. Carter finally realized the truth. The machine wasn't just a tool, it was a gateway. The entity, this powerful ancient being, had been trapped for eons, and the machine had been its prison. But now, the machine was awakening, and the entity was free. The entity, sensing Dr. Carter's realization, stopped its advance. It didn't attack, It simply watched her, its glowing eyes filled with a strange, ancient wisdom. "We've unlocked something we weren't meant to," Dr. Carter said, her voice trembling. "We've set it free." The entity didn't respond with words. It didn't need to. The weight of the truth was clear. They had awoken something far more dangerous than they could have ever imagined. And now, there was no turning back. The air was thick with anticipation. The entity's presence had grown even stronger, its energy reverberating throughout the entire facility. The walls seemed to hum, the lights flickering erratically. Dr. Carter, despite her fear, couldn't look away. There was something mesmerizing about the way the entity moved, its form shifting fluidly, like smoke caught in a windstorm. It was as if the entity was calling to them, beckoning them to understand, to acknowledge its existence. It wasn't hostile, not yet, but its very presence radiated a sense of overwhelming power. "We have to shut it down," Julia said, her voice shaky, "before it consumes everything." Dr. Carter looked at her, trying to steady her breath. "It's already started. We can't shut it down. The system is too far gone. This thing, this entity, it's already inside everything. The walls, the power grid, the air we breathe. It's everywhere." "We're trapped," Paul whispered, his voice filled with dread. "It knows everything. It's been watching us." Dr. Carter turned her attention back to the entity, her mind racing for any solution. The walls continued to pulsate. A low, resonant hum filled the air. Felt colder now. A strange, almost metallic taste filled Dr. Carter's mouth. It was as if the atmosphere had been altered by the entity, its presence seeping into everything around them. The room, once a place of advanced technology, now felt like a tomb, trapped in the gravitational pull of something beyond their comprehension. "We can't stay here," Ben said, his voice laced with panic. "We need to find an escape route, now." But Dr. Carter knew better. There was no escape. The entity wasn't bound to the walls of the facility. It was a living intelligence that could transcend space and time. If it wanted them, it could follow them anywhere. They could run, but they couldn't hide. "It's not about running anymore," Dr. Carter said, her voice filled with an eerie calm. "We've already unleashed it, and now we have to face the consequences." Suddenly, the lights flickered and a loud mechanical sound filled the room, making the walls shake. The entity was changing again. Its form became even more fluid, more dynamic, as if it was learning from its surroundings, adapting to every new piece of information. The walls began to dissolve before their eyes. What had once been solid stone was now an organic, pulsing mass, alive, shifting, and merging with the entity's form. Dr. Carter's heart pounded. "It's merging with the facility. We can't stop it. It's evolving faster than we can comprehend." The room was now nothing more than an extension of the entity itself. The air was thick with its presence, and Dr. Carter could feel it, pressing against her every nerve, every thought. There was no escape, no safe place to hide. Her thoughts raced as she tried to understand the full scope of what they had unleashed. This was no mere alien entity. It was something far older, something that had been trapped for eons, biding its time, waiting for the right moment to break free. And now that moment had arrived. "We have to make a choice," Dr. Carter said, her voice low but filled with resolve. "We either face it head-on or we let it consume us." Ben, Julia, and Paul stood frozen, unable to comprehend the enormity of the decision before them. There was no escape, no hiding. The entity was everywhere. "I'm not sure we have a choice," Ben said, his voice breaking. "It's already won." The weight of his words sank in. It wasn't just a battle against an unknown force. It was a fight for survival against something far beyond their understanding. The entity had already taken over everything. The question now was whether they could survive it. "We face it," Dr. Carter said firmly. "We face it, and we fight for whatever remains of humanity. We don't run, not this time." The room seemed to tremble with the entity's power, its presence overwhelming. The walls had all but dissolved into a mass of shifting organic material. The air was thick with the hum of the entity's energy, and Dr. Carter could feel her very skin vibrating with it. This wasn't just an alien force. This was something older, something far more dangerous. "We have to stop it," Julia said, her voice barely a whisper. But how? How could they stop something that was part of the very foundation of their world? Dr. Carter stepped forward, her hand outstretched toward the glowing core of the entity. The machine, the being, they had awakened. It wasn't just a machine anymore. It had become a living force, an intelligence beyond their understanding. "I'll take responsibility," Dr. Carter said, turning to face her team. "If this ends here, we have to make it count." Dr. Carter's mind raced as she approached the core of the entity. Every step felt like it was taking her deeper into a nightmare she couldn't escape. The very air around her seemed to shimmer with energy, alive with the force of the entity. There was no way back, no way to undo what they had done. The walls had dissolved, and now only one thing remained: confrontation. As Dr. Carter reached the heart of the entity, everything went dark. The walls disappeared completely, and she was left alone in a void. The entity was all around her, its presence suffocating, its power overwhelming. And then, silence. For a moment, Dr. Carter thought they had lost. But then, the darkness gave way to light, and the entity spoke.